Canada turned its heavy oil into a trillion-dollar industry. America has a deposit of similar scale sitting beneath a stretch of Utah desert, and almost nobody knows it exists. An estimated 1.3 trillion barrels of oil in place. Fields that have been pumping for decades. A geological formation so rich it rivals one of the largest oil deposits on the planet. Billions of dollars in energy resources locked beneath one of the most remote corners of the American West. Yet despite its staggering scale, most Americans have never heard of it. When Americans think about oil, they usually think about Texas derricks, Gulf of Mexico platforms, or the shale fields of North Dakota. Few realize that one of the largest concentrations of oil on the continent sits hundreds of miles from any of them, buried beneath the high desert of northeastern Utah. This is the Uinta Basin. Stretching across the corner of Utah, where the state brushes against Colorado and Wyoming, the Uinta Basin is one of America's quietest petroleum provinces. Running through it is the Green River Formation, a band of ancient rock that has been producing conventional oil for generations. Near the towns of Vernal and Roosevelt, wells have drawn crude from the ground for decades, feeding refineries and quietly powering a slice of the American economy. The oil pumped here is unusual, a waxy, high-quality crude that turns almost solid at room temperature, so distinctive that it has to be kept heated just to move it. For the small communities scattered across the basin, that oil has meant jobs and a way of life built on top of the rock. But conventional production is not the real story. The real story is what's locked inside the rock itself. Beyond the oil that flows freely, the Uinta Basin holds an enormous unconventional resource. Heavy oil and oil-bearing rock estimated at around 1.3 trillion barrels of oil in place. That figure is not a typo. It places Utah's deposit in the same conversation as Canada's Alberta oil sands, the resource that transformed Canada into one of the world's top oil exporters. The United States Geological Survey has documented it. The Energy Information Administration has cited it. The numbers are on the record. And still, outside of the energy industry, the basin remains almost invisible. Which raises an obvious question. How did a deposit of this scale end up beneath a desert, hidden in plain sight? The answer begins around 50 million years ago, long before the deserts, long before the towns, long before anyone was looking. At the time, this part of North America looked nothing like the arid plateau it is today. Instead of red rock and sagebrush, the region was covered by an enormous system of freshwater lakes. Geologists call the largest of them Lake Uinta. For millions of years, it spread across the landscape, fed by rivers draining the young mountains steadily rising around it, expanding and shrinking with the ancient climate. These were not ordinary lakes. They were vast, long-lived, and extraordinarily productive. Algae bloomed across the water in immense quantities. Season after season, generation after generation, tiny organisms lived, died, and drifted to the lake floor. Rivers carried in mud and sand. Layer upon layer of organic-rich sediment accumulated on the bottom, slowly building the foundations of a future petroleum province. At first, these sediments were simply mud and decaying organic matter, but geology works on timescales that are difficult to comprehend. As millions of years passed, more sediment arrived. Older layers were buried deeper and deeper underground. Pressure increased, temperatures rose, and the organic material trapped within the rock began to change. Slowly, the ancient lake life transformed into kerogen, the waxy precursor to petroleum. With increasing heat, that kerogen began generating hydrocarbons. Oil was born, deep beneath the surface, inside a formation that would one day carry the name of the Green River. But generating oil is only part of the story. Sedimentary basins around the world produce hydrocarbons. most never become significant petroleum provinces. For a basin to succeed, everything must line up. Source rocks must generate oil. Reservoir rocks must exist to store it. Seals must trap it underground. And the whole system must survive the geological events that could destroy it. The Uinta Basin met those conditions on a remarkable scale. Its ancient lakes produced source rock of exceptional richness. Its layers preserved staggering volumes of organic matter. And crucially, much of that oil never fully escaped. A great deal of it stayed locked within the rock as heavy oil, thick and slow-moving, waiting. Where other basins lost their oil to erosion, faulting, or the simple passage of time, this one held on. By the time humans arrived, a vast oil resource had already been sitting underground for tens of millions of years. And the remarkable thing is that almost nothing on the surface gave it away. No dramatic seeps, no obvious clues, just quiet desert stretching to the horizon. Then the modern era of exploration changed everything. Drillers working near Vernal and Roosevelt confirmed that the Uinta Basin held commercial oil, and conventional production took hold. For decades, the basin delivered a steady, unglamorous flow of crude, never making national headlines, but never stopping either. It became a working oil province hiding behind an empty-looking landscape. The heavy oil, though, was a different challenge entirely. Thick, unconventional, waxy, and difficult to produce, it sat largely untouched for years. Known, mapped, documented, but stubbornly out of economic reach. It was clearly there. Everyone always agreed on that. Getting it out was another matter entirely. And that is where the story grows complicated. Much of the Uinta Basin's resource sits beneath or alongside federal land, near national park boundaries, and some of the most protected wilderness in the American West. The oil exists on a scale that rivals Alberta, but the question of whether and how it should ever be developed runs straight into questions of land, water, and conservation that have no easy answers. Extracting heavy oil at scale is water-intensive, and this is arid country where water is already spoken for. Every barrel that might come out of the ground has to be weighed against the landscape it would come from. So the basin waits. The geology has not changed. The ancient lakes remain the source of the oil. The same rock still holds the same 1.3 trillion barrels in place that it held before anyone knew to look. Only the technology, the economics, and the debate around it continue to evolve. Today, the Uinta Basin stands as both a working oil field and a sleeping giant, a proven conventional producer sitting on top of an unconventional resource of almost incomprehensible size. And perhaps that is what makes it so remarkable. The story is not simply about oil. It's about deep time, patience, and a resource hiding in plain sight. An ancient lake became a petroleum system. A petroleum system became an oil province. And that province may still be only at the beginning of its story. Because beneath one of the quietest deserts in America lies a deposit that could rival one of the largest oil resources on Earth, and almost nobody knows it's there. I hope you found this as interesting as I did, and as always, thanks for watching.